This is the white paper that everybody needs to go ahead and download and read. Ancestry's timber algorithm is downweighting some of the most important aspects of your before your results are even calculated. This is one of their white papers published in January of this year, Ancestry DNA Matching White Paper, discovering genetic matches across a massive expanding genetic database. So this white paper is all about how Ancestry detects and calculates DNA matches between people, basically describing the technical process they use to decide who shares inherited DNA, how much, and how those matches are adjusted. And this is really important because this is the foundational logic that impacts how other things are reported on their site, such as communities, your direct DNA matches, as well as even your ethnicity estimates. At first glance, everything seems to be great. They use IBD as the foundation of their matching. IBD, identity by descent, when we're looking at people who have direct DNA to DNA matching, it usually indicates that there is a shared common ancestor. And their assumption here, rightfully so, the more DNA that can be detected via IBD, the better the chance that these people are more closely related. However, this is where it gets sus. To improve the accuracy of this estimate, we first apply a simple algorithm that de-emphasizes the evidence from detected IBD that is less likely to be informative of close relationships. We call this algorithm timber. It was the word de-emphasize that made me pause for a second and say, I think I need to go back to the other section and actually figure out what timber is doing, because they're also saying that it is less likely to be informative of close relationships. And I'm just curious, what is the criteria that they're applying to determine that it's going to be less likely to be informative? So down below, they explain a little bit more about what they're doing. They say, if all detected IBD is due to inheritance from recent common ancestors, it is extremely unlikely that we would observe such excessive IBD at specific regions of the genome. So what they're talking about is, if you can see right there, where they're plotting out, or the algorithm is plotting out and looking at a baseline, and then you see that little purplish cluster that's sitting above the bottom part, that's what they would consider excessive IBD. They say this suggests that many of these spikes in IBD are unlikely to reflect recent inheritance from common ancestors. Instead, these spikes are more likely reflective of other demographic factors or identity by state. The implication is that IBD detected in regions with high rates of matching is expected to be less useful for estimating recent relationships. So that was a little tricky sleight of hand, but what they're basically saying is that they aren't going to treat IBD data, so where your genome is directly matching DNA in other users, they're going to say, oh, too many people are matching here, so that can't be actual descent. No, no, no. You can't actually be related to these people in any way. It must be IBS, meaning that it's just basically a coincidence of region. So that's like literally problem number one, is that they are arbitrarily deciding that you can't possibly be related to those people with a common ancestor. So now they're telling you what timber does once they have flagged that you have all of this excessive IBD data. They say, for each individual, regions of the genome with unusually high rates of matching, once they've been identified from these regions, we reduce the genetic distance of detected IBD segments overlapping these regions. What that's basically saying is timber is taking these regions and now downweighting that DNA, either saying that it's too common to be significant, or that it's not real authentic IBD data. So it's not counting it towards the data that it's going to be using to read and construct your DNA profile. Timber is taking real IBD data, your direct matching with other users, and treating it as if it is just a coincidence. But what is considered too often is not a universally accepted biological threshold. It is, first of all, based upon the people that are in their database, and it's also using their statistical logic and their assumptions. That means that what is considered real or meaningful IBD matches isn't being decided by the strict DNA to DNA matching. It's being decided by the model. Since timber is going in and downweighting the DNA that is shared, or basically saying that it's too common to actually be contributing anything meaningful, it's going to now affect every other step that ancestry system uses based on that adjusted data. So now your cousin matches, since those are calculated from timber, you're going to only see certain people maybe other people have now been removed, or the genetic distance, how much you actually share with them is going to be affected. So the order of like close cousin matches to more distant cousin matches, people might be incorrectly labeled. Or genetic communities, those identities that they give you are built also from that same IBD data and that IBD networking. So which communities you are now a part of, which communities they are showing you, is affected by the algorithms adjustments. And the part that everyone really goes to these platforms for, the ethnicity estimates. They are generated by comparing your DNA to reference panels, which we've talked about. But the DNA that they are comparing has already been filtered through Timber. So they're not even looking at all of the DNA that you're submitting. They're only looking at the DNA that they have decided is meeting. So the entire story that is told via Ancestry is shaped from the beginning that they get your data. The parts that are shared with so many people that could be indicative of deeper ancestry is immediately thrown away. And no matter how we look at it, the past shapes the present. So you can't make inferences about present relationships if you're going to throw away all of the informative markers about the past. If we keep saying that their reference panel skews people of European descent and somebody tests, that means any markers that are overrepresented and shared with the European skewed panel are going to be de-emphasized. So on the inverse, it's going to overemphasize those markers that it's considered informative. And if we're talking mostly about a sample that skews European, which markers would be considered rare in European? Those that are often associated with countries in the continent of Africa.